For me personally, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for relationships, it wasn't for partnerships. That's how I've been able to live my accredited life. And I understand in order to get from where I am today to where I want to be, relationships, partnerships, the network is going to be very crucial in that, and is going to make the whole process not only it's going to make it doable.
You're listening to The Accredited Life, hosted by Peter Neill. Make sure to subscribe and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Accredited Investors Only Podcast, presented by Accredited Life. I am your host, Peter Neill. This is the first podcast. I'm so happy to be doing this. I'm so happy that you're here with me on this journey. I'm going to talk about a lot of different things in this podcast, and let's start with, the Accredited Investors Only Podcast. What is it? And then presented by Accredited Life. What is Accredited Life? And who's Peter Neill, of course? Who am I? Let's maybe start with there. My name is Peter Neill. I am the founder, one of the co-founders and partners of GSP REI. We're a vertically integrated real estate investment company. And for the last 10 years, I have been investing in real estate and real estate-related instruments like distressed mortgages. So I got my start. It was 10 years ago, right after school. I went to Temple University, and I thought I was going to be working in the TV business. So that's what I went to school for. I majored in what was then called broadcast telecommunications and mass media, and the name changed to media studies and production. And I specialized in media business and entrepreneurship. So I thought I was going to be working in TV and media, but fate brought me into the real estate world. It wasn't soon after I graduated that I took a job working for a distressed mortgage investment company. At the time, I didn't know that's what it was. I just thought it was a regular old real estate investment company, which even then I didn't know a whole lot about. And that really opened me to an entirely new world, an entirely new way of thinking, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking about on this podcast. It's about, thinking differently. It's about looking at things from a totally different perspective, and that's a lot about what Accredited Life is. So let's kind of, lead into that story a little bit. It was one of the first days, it might have even been the first day, that I started working at this distressed mortgage company, that I went to, that company ran a group called Strategic Investor Alliance. It was a group of accredited investors that invested in all kinds of different passive opportunities. And, from real estate to different types of businesses, to all different types of strategies, asset classes, and things like that. So this really, between working at the distressed mortgage company, being an active part of this accredited investor group, I was introduced to all kinds of different alternative investment opportunities, and it really opened my world up. For me, growing up, my father was a property manager. He worked for CBRE my entire life. So actually before that, when I was really young, he worked at PECO, and he was a property manager for them, and he managed single-family rentals on properties that they would own, and they have electrical lines and things like that over, and also they would manage those properties. But for a very, very long time, he worked for CBRE, and he would manage office and industrial and commercial real estate. And to me, I only ever saw the management side of the business. So, if it was a storm, if it was raining, if it was snowing, if there was anything like that going on, it would be 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd hear my dad in the other room on the phone, talking to people, putting people in the right place, all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of my introduction to real estate. And at that age, I thought, I don't think that's really what I want to do. So I went to school for communications, for television, to work on and in front of and behind the camera and things like that. And I love that, and that's why I'm happy to be doing a podcast and videos and things like that, because it brings me back to my initial roots. So what happened after that was I met somebody who had given me a job in the distressed mortgage space and going to these, part of it was going to these groups. And that's where I really started to live what I call my accredited life. So obviously, this is the Accredited Investors Only Podcast. That I like to joke that is in name only. This podcast is for everyone. This is going to be a great opportunity for not just accredited investors, but non-accredited investors to learn about all kinds of different alternative investments, not just real estate, but beyond that into private equity and venture capital and other types of investment opportunities and things like that. And then everything that goes along with real estate investing. So family governance, building a legacy, all of the tax and insurance and wealth management and everything else that goes along with, just kind of looking at wealth and investing from a holistic standpoint is all kind of topics that we're going to be covering on the Accredited Investor Only Podcast. So the podcast is a way to really reach a larger audience and also share this accredited life, this idea, this philosophy of what it's like to live and work and invest as an accredited investor. So our goal is to not just have a podcast that we do each week, but we also want to build a community behind it, a community of like-minded investors who take investing seriously and who see it as a way to not only impact their lives, but the lives of others. I think one thing that's important with building wealth and real estate investing and value investing in general is that when you do have wealth and you do build wealth, that it's important that there's a responsibility to it, socially and to yourself and with your family as well. You have to do things responsibly. And it's like the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, in a lot of ways, wealth is power. And so with great wealth comes great responsibility as well. And one thing, as a fundraiser and as an investor for over 10 years now, not when people become an accredited investor, nobody really tells them how to invest. Nobody tells them what they should invest in. A lot of times I work with all kinds of different investors who have all a very diverse background when it comes to how they grew and their businesses, how they grew wealth through investments and things like that. And a lot of them just through hard work and determination and consistency over time are able to get past that $1 million net worth, which is something I maybe should have said even earlier, is what is an accredited investor? Well, the SEC is who defines what a accredited investor is. And you could certainly go to their website and look it up. I would suggest you Google accredited investor. What is an accredited investor? But I'll kind of give you the 30,000-foot overview. Mostly what I'm talking about is individuals that have a net worth of $1 million and above, not including their primary residence. And that's through the net worth, and then through income. This is an and/or, it doesn't need to be both. Through income, you could be a high income earner making $200,000 a year as an individual, or $300,000 with your spouse combined. So when I'm speaking of accredited investor, that's what I'm speaking of. And then there's some other ways to hit that accredited investor status as well. And I'd invite you to Google it and look it up and read it directly from the SEC site. So there's a lot of what does that mean, accredited investor? Why do they have that definition? There's a lot of opportunities that are available to accredited investors that aren't available to the masses. And, a big reason for that, I'm not the one that set it up that way, but a big reason for that and why it's set up that way and why the SEC has this definition and has regulations for funds and different investment vehicles and opportunities to only accept accredited investors is because they look at it as people that have that kind of wealth or have that kind of income are able to take risk and to invest in these certain opportunities, and they have the bandwidth financially to be able to do it. And you can agree or disagree with that, but it is the way that it is. And what I do and what I've done for the last 10 years is raising capital for funds, 506c funds, so 506 registered funds where only accredited investors can allow. And it could be allowed into those funds. And if you're used to that space and you are an accredited investor who invests in those types of offerings, you probably see all the time on paperwork and on Facebook ads and on LinkedIn and things like that, you'll see accredited investors only. So that's kind of where where the name of the podcast came from, Accredited Investors Only. And what I want to do is, for the most part, there's going to be a few different kind of shows that we're going to have on this podcast. So there's going to be episodes like this where it's just me. A lot of times I'm going to be talking about living the accredited life. I'm going to be talking about my philosophy and my opinions around how accredited investors should invest, how they should the mindset that they should have, how they should do due diligence, how they should find deals, how they should underwrite those deals, underwrite the operators they invest with, all that kind of stuff. I'm not just going to cover the numbers. I'm going to be talking a lot about lifestyle too. I think that it's very important, that we look at this from a holistic standpoint. So, it's self, health, and wealth. I think that's a good way to look at things that kind of encompasses everything can fall into those buckets. So when I say self, I'm talking about your family. I'm talking about your friends. I'm talking about your business. I'm talking about your life in that sense as a whole. Same with your health. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're not healthy, you're not doing the right things from that perspective. And believe me, we all have our, different things that we could be doing better and things like that. So it's important that you're setting goals around that you're reviewing your life in that way, that you're looking at things in that way, because all the money in the world is not going to buy you a healthy lifestyle or health at the end of the day. So that's going to be an important topic that we talk a lot about. And then obviously building wealth. And that's not just external wealth, and how much money you have in the bank account or what your net worth is or something like that. That's internal wealth as well. So that's kind of, all three, self, health, and wealth, kind of work together holistically too, and they're interwoven, so obviously your internal self and your external self, your wealth is a huge part of that as well, because you don't need to have any money at all to feel great about yourself, to have a great connection with your life, with your friends, with your relationship with God, and on a spiritual level and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be looking at things from a holistic standpoint, kind of everything falling into that bucket of self, health, and wealth. So in speaking of that, let's talk a little bit more about accredited life. Well, let's go back for a moment. We can look at, we'll stay with accredited investors only on the podcast. We're going to be interviewing all kinds of different opportunities. We're going to be talking to people that are going to educate us on all kinds of different real estate, private equity, venture capital, all kind of different alternative, passive and active real estate, active investing opportunities and things like that. This is by no means a guru experience. I only know what I know, and I'm always learning on a daily basis. I'm always trying to, I'm always taking in different content and things like that. And by no means, these are my opinions. I'm not giving any financial advice or anything like that. Not every single person that I interview on the podcast am I going to have a pre-existing relationship with or anything like that. So it's very important that you look at this from an educational standpoint. And I would say that's where Accredited Life and the community really comes into place. I want to be able to come together. That's going to be through virtual masterminds. I'd like to get together at least on a weekly basis in the beginning here and talk with each other weekly. What challenges are we having? What successes are we having? What are we seeing? I love to have that kind of interaction with people that have a diverse background, that have they're in different opportunities and they're in different parts of the country. They're seeing different things in different ways, so that we can understand the macro and also the micro economy and vision and different levels of where we're at in the country and in the economy and in the markets and things like that. So it's important that we bring together a diverse audience with a diverse background. So let me speak a little bit more about Accredited Life and what it is and how it kind of came about. I kind of got into this earlier, and let me finish that line of thought. So out of school, going to these accredited investor meetings, and seeing all these different passive opportunities, that's really when I kind of came up with this living my accredited life. And there was kind of some parts of it, and what it is was that, some things that I, in talking with thousands of accredited investors over the years through different fund opportunities and things like that, and different active opportunities as well, and partnerships and that kind of stuff, I've noticed that there's certain things that we could all be doing to help us to live what I call that accredited life. And you can call it whatever you want. It's living your best life, or, living at your peak potential and performance and things like that. It's kind of all the same, right? So first and foremost, you need to have a strong foundation. So I think it's important that, obviously, if you're an accredited investor, we're accredited investors here, that we've probably built something, right? We've been working, we've been building, we have a career that we've created and we've forged over many years, chances are, and we all have a foundation, right, at the end of the day. But it's important that we come back and we revisit and we revise that, especially with what we know now. So I think we're always working and working and working. It's good to slow down every now and again and to look at the foundation that we've built, look at where we are, where we've been, where we are today. This is kind of like a life review, I think would be another way of putting it. So we want to look at our foundation. We want to revise. We want to edit. We want to take a deep dive into why we are the way we are, where we want to be, all that kind of stuff, which kind of leads into the next part of this, living an accredited life. You want to perfect your vision as well. So you build a strong foundation, and now it's time to grow off of that and to grow up, and grow up and grow out, right? So we're building a building here. So you lay a strong foundation, you can go up vertically and you can go out horizontally. So we're going to talk about what it means to really perfect that vision. This is going well beyond just setting goals for 6 months and 12 months and things like that. This is about really looking at what's that legacy you want to leave. So looking at it from a long-term perspective and then kind of coming in from there and looking at it that way. So we're going to talk a lot about how to perfect this vision and how to ebb and flow, as new information and things like that come in over time. What's important to you now in the short term, what's going to be important in the long term, and everything in between. And from there, once we've kind of defined this vision, we want to start to craft the plan. So what is it? What's going to get you from where you're at today to where you want to be tomorrow? And this is kind of like creating the schedule, right, for your redevelopment of your life, right? So we want to look at what is it going to take? What's the network? What's the investments you need to make? Who are the people you need to know? All that kind of stuff in order to craft a plan to get you from where you are today to where you want to be. We then, living your purpose is just such a big part of this. It's a part of your foundation, but it's one of the kind of the core attributes of living your accredited life, is making sure that everything you're doing, for the most part, is leading you towards and based off of getting to what that purpose is. And this has a lot to do with, the legacy that you're going to leave behind. Another big part of it is living your life. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. We all know this. We've all had these. There's challenges that present themselves. And there's successes too that come along the way. So we want to be sure to embrace all these things, good and bad, and we want to get through them. We want to appreciate them. We want to enjoy them, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to, I call it living your life. That's another part of it. And then loving your life. That's a whole nother aspect of it, right? You know what I mean? We could live it, we can get through it, that kind of thing. But it's finding ways to really enjoy and to not just live, but to really love what you do, what you're doing, why you're doing it, all that kind of stuff. So that's another big part of this. And then kind of the last part of the 7 parts of living the accredited life is embracing the quiet. So that has to do with prayer, meditation, silence. It kind of brings things full circle, because revising and living and finding your foundation has a lot to do with embracing the quiet. These 7 kind of core steps or phases or whatever you want to call them in living the accredited life, they're things that you can do in order, but they're things that you're going to be doing all the time as well. So embracing the quiet, taking time to listen to that inner voice, to think about things but to not just think about them and all, but to actually to listen and to let the world and to let God and to let whatever your beliefs are, to listen to what it is that you're hearing inside and to let that guide you in some way, shape, or form. So they're kind of the 7 stages of living the accredited life that through the community, through interactions and through these virtual masterminds and things like that, we're going to be touching upon all of these things to create this holistic vision for your life, for my life. Hopefully we could do it together. I think it's so important to have, people in your life that understand where you're coming from. They understand the challenges that you have. They understand the successes that you have, and they can help you they can provide accountability, and they can also help you to get to where you want to be. At the end of the day, a lot of, you've probably heard this before, your network is your net worth. So, and a lot of times in order to get to where you want to be, it's always, there's somebody there, and you might not know them today, but there's somebody that's going to help you to get there. And for me personally, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for relationships, it wasn't for partnerships. That's how I've been able to live my accredited life. And I understand in order to get from where I am today to where I want to be, relationships, partnerships, the network is going to be very crucial in that, and is going to make the whole process not only, it's going to make it doable. So it's important that I hope that you'll come from listening to this podcast, learning a lot through the podcast, but also join the community and come over to accreditedlife.com. It's a work in progress right now, so you're going to see a lot change on that site as time goes on, and as we do more of these podcasts, and as we start to do our weekly meetings and coming together and all that kind of stuff, because this is not it's not for me, this is for us. And I want to build a community that you enjoy, that's fun, that's interactive. I don't want to just be talking about numbers all the time and investment opportunities and things like that. I want to have different clubs be involved in this. I love cooking. I have a beagle. I have a great family. I have all these things in my life, reading and you watch TV shows and things like that, and you have places you like to go and places you wish to go and all that kind of stuff. And I want Accredited Life and the community that we build to be, so much more than just talking about investment opportunities and talking about, some private equity deal or venture capital deal or an industrial opportunity or self-storage facility or car wash or something like that. I want that to be a part of it, but I want that to be just one part in a whole holistic community here where we all live our accredited lives or whatever you want to call it, and we kind of we create that vision and we put a name on it and we help each other to get there. I think that's really important. So, like I said, I think moving forward, these podcasts, you'll find me on them, obviously. Sometimes I'm going to do solo podcasts where we're going to talk about maybe some of these 7 stages of living the accredited life. We're going to share some ideas and some tactics and things like that in order to set up your foundation and to revise it, revisit it, all that kind of stuff, to really grow and create that perfect vision, to craft your plan and find out, little ways that you can make it from point A to B to C to D, and then, kind of lay the pebbles and the brickwork, each day on the path to getting to fulfilling that vision. We want to find ways to live your purpose, live your life, enjoy your life, love your life, and of course to embrace the quiet and the silence and the peace along the way, right? So we're going to do podcasts like this. We're going to do a lot of interviews. We're going to bring all kinds of people on, and we're going to hopefully we'll have a whole lot of fun times. And like I said, I want you to join the community. Come over to accreditedlife.com and let's get involved in that. It's completely free. I'm going to start with doing a mastermind kind of a session on a once-a-week basis, and then we'll kind of have a lot of different ideas and things like that. But it's important that we work to build the community. I kind of have 3 phases in my mind here. I want to build the community. I want to get a lot of like-minded accredited investors together. The community is just for accredited investors. Like I said before, the podcast, anybody and everybody can listen to that. I hope you'd share it with your friends and your family and your kids and all that kind of stuff, because it's going to be educational. You're going to be able to learn a lot. And I think it's important that, everybody strives for, some bit of financial security in their life. You don't have to be a millionaire or multimillionaire or anything like that. But I think everybody naturally has some goal for some bit of financial security. So if that's part of your life and part of your goals, as I'm sure it is, this is going to be a great podcast for you, whether you're accredited or you're not. But for accredited investors who are interested in passive and active opportunities and things like that, come on over to accreditedlife.com and sign up. Let's talk one-on-one. I want to get to know you and hopefully see how we can align our goals, how I can build this community to serve you as best as possible. In a lot of ways, so community, and then that's one of the phases. People is another one. So I want to meet as many of you individually as I can. I want to get to know what your goals are, how I can help you, who I can introduce you to, all that kind of stuff, and kind of see what happens from there. Of course, I want to do business. I want to invest in amazing opportunities as I do now. I want to continue to do that, and I'd love to bring you along in the ride with me and do some cool things together, and then we kind of see what happens from there. So that, I don't want to take up much of your time in these podcasts either. I understand how busy I am. I know how busy you probably are as well. So I want to jam pack as much value in and as quickly as I can. So I'll just kind of leave you with, let's living the accredited life. Let's start with that first step in, revising your foundation. And like I said, that's kind of a life review. And maybe next time we'll get together, we'll talk just about that first step of living your accredited life. And we'll talk about some tactics and things like that on how to do a successful life review. And we'll take it from there. Like I said, I really appreciate you being here. This is the first episode of the Accredited Investors Only Podcast, presented by Accredited Life. I am your host, Peter Neill. I'm looking forward to being with you here each week, and looking forward to seeing you in the Accredited Life community. Let's live our accredited lives together. Let's make some great investments together, and let's do some cool things together. I have a lot of cool ideas, so reach out to me. And once we start to build the community, we're going to roll those out and get some people involved. But reach out. I'll tell you all about them, and they'll be coming out in future podcasts as well. So thank you very much. This was the first episode of the Accredited Investor Only Podcast, presented by Accredited Life. I'm your host, Peter Neill. Thank you so much. Have a good one, and hope to see you on the next episode.